Okay, hi, and welcome to another edition of Shortcuts. Me, Eoin McCabe, and in this week's show, I have a very interesting interviewee, Dr. Brent Babcock from the USA, from all the way from Oklahoma, USA, who is a physician, author, researcher, amongst many other things, and also quite the expert in the whole area of the womb twin phenomenon, the twinless twin situation. So it's a pleasure to have you on board for this particular show, Dr. Babcock. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so honored and pleased and really excited to share what I've researched concerning the womb twin, the vanishing twin experience, and what took place.
Yeah, it's one heck of a subject, and it's amazing. I mean, I remember when I discovered it myself a few years ago. I started searching for information and looking for what was out there, and that would have been back in about, say, 2007, 2008, and there wasn't a huge amount of stuff out there, but there was a few books, and one of them was your own book, My Twin Vanished, Did Yours? And I remember getting that and reading it and found it very insightful and very useful and very helpful, and lots of practical and scientific data and so forth in it, and so really, really good stuff. So you obviously have been researching this area for quite a while now.
Yes. When I was in St. Louis in 1991 for a neuro-emotional technique seminar, I'd been in a session, and that's when we found out that I had a twin sister that passed away 5th month in utero. And when I heard those words that I had a twin sister, I just knew it was right. It just made sense. When I work with patients and people throughout the world, when you hear truth, it's like a hand in a glove. It's comforting, it's warm, and I just knew it was true, and I just wanted to scream out to the whole world that now I had some answers to some of my questions, why I was acting the way I was, and what was in my heart. And as soon as I left the room, I went downstairs and on the phone and called my mom and Colette, and I said, Mom, I just found out I was a twin. And there was dead silence on the other end of the phone. She was in Utah. Mom, are you still there? She started crying. She said, I knew it, Brent. I knew it.
Wow. That's incredible.
It was just so touching. And I have a sister, Barbara, who is 13 months older than I am. And I just put her in that role of my twin sister. And when people would say, oh, there's Brent and Barbara, they're twins, there was music to my ears. Little did I know that I had a twin sister that died in the womb. And so from 1991 to today, I continued to research about the womb twin. And I thought, well, with all this research, somebody needs to write a book. Somebody needs to share this information. So I started on the years and years of research of the internet, at the University of Oklahoma Medical School, on Medline, interviewing people, and I'm still finding new information. Last week on CSI here in the United States, there was a fetus in fetu little feature, part of the show, about someone who had a twin inside of him, and he didn't want the operation because he didn't want to lose the other half of him. So it's becoming more popular, more awareness is taking place.
Yeah, so it's very much coming into the mainstream, isn't it? There's sort of a slowly an opening up to it. But the one thing about the I suppose the other side of that is there's still and correct me if I'm wrong here, but certainly when I was sort of researching it myself a few years ago, what I noticed was that there was an absence of any data or sort of research in the psychological world. So it's like the fields of psychology doesn't seem to take this seriously in terms of the loss of a sibling in the womb that it could have a psychological impact. It doesn't seem to be something that the psychological world are willing to embrace or take seriously. Am I right? Is that still the case, Brent?
Yes, it's slowly taking place, but the level of grief a twin experiences when another twin dies is greater than the experience after the death of a mother or a father or a sibling. It's equal to the bereavement felt when a spouse dies. And in the presentations that I've done the last 5-6 years as I've toured the world, I share these research projects and papers that have taken place, and it's just the grief and a wombless twin survivor has experienced death before they experience life and birth. And there's countless people who've lost their twin in the womb or stillborns or early infant deaths who never were told, yet they always had a feeling that something greatly was missing in their life. And when they're told that, yes, you had a twin, then frustrating pieces of the puzzle fall together with a new meaning of completeness, but yet they're still twinless. And so it's slowly taking place with the grief and management of what took place. And it's a struggle. The time takes place. And so it's psychological. The therapists are starting to pick up on it more, and with grief management. But there's a lot of progress that needs to take place.
Okay. Just go into a tiny bit of detail in terms of how exactly did you realize that you had lost a twin?
Well, with my sister and the closeness with her, we did everything together, classes together. We were just always together, and that was for my benefit to try to make sense out of my life, and just trying to understand what that hole in my heart was. And I knew about Vanishing Twins through neuroemotional technique because you try to find someone that's been a part of your life, and sometimes you go back into the womb, and then when I found out that I had a twin sister, it just perked my interest, and it just brought peace into my heart. And so that's how I found out that I was a twin, and started experimenting with it, talking to my sister, family members. My great uncles were twins. My grandmother said that she was a twin, that one was never born. And so there was a twinning in my family also. And so I had that insight. And also, with my children, in my book, I talk about my son's experience, and I'll share that at the conference on Saturday. And as I started writing the book, I had other patients who were reading the manuscript saying, I had a tumor on my low back with some body parts in it. You know what, Dr. Babcock? I think I'm a surviving twin. And through the technique and time and the sessions and counseling, this person is a surviving twinless twin also.
So, did you, in realizing this and beginning to integrate this sort of knowledge and information into your awareness, did you need to go through some sort of process as a form of, I suppose, the realization that this was the case for you would sort of fill a piece of the jigsaw, if you like, a big piece of the jigsaw, if not the complete piece. But equally, it brings with it, as you say, grief or an emotional impact. So, how did you manage the process, or was there a process that you went through as part of the integration and the healing of this?
That's a great question. The process of healing from death, abandonment, desertion, it's a process that I deal with even today. The everyday issues that pop up, not having my best friend, my twin sister, with me to visit, to play, to console, to share the good days and the bad days. The anger deep down inside of me was ever present, just not happy. Yeah. Abuse that I've experienced from other people was taking place in my life. As I said, the abandonment issues, don't leave me. And then the depression, trying to figure out what's going on, and being manipulated by females. I let them sometimes take advantage of me because my twin sister is not here. And then also God issues. You deal with the God issues also. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? I wasn't good enough. I didn't try hard enough. Why her, not me? Why couldn't I have died with her? It's not fair. Prayer, things and lots of failures, trying to make sense. And then, with addictions, as I talk about in my book and when I lecture, addiction is trying to fill a hole in one's heart. And with the techniques that I use and my years and years of experience, both personally and professionally, I can get to the root of the problem while you're smoking, drinking, let someone hurt you every day, physically, emotionally, financially, trying to get to that root of the problem, the hole in your heart, so the addiction will be released and you can be free from it. So it's something that, I'll just say, it's a twin issue. Oh, it's my sister. It's a twin issue. I need to get it worked on. And I'm very conscious of it. And same with my children. Cameron, my youngest son, he'll just, it's my twin brother. It's a twin issue. I'll deal with it. He's very verbal about it, and always has been. We found his twin brother when he had a twin brother very early in his life. So his life has been spectacular and very healthy, very sane, very stable because of our knowledge back in 1992 when he was born. We knew something was wrong, and the pieces kept falling in place.
So this sounds like then it's more a way of living, really. It's sort of it's a way of relating to life almost, in terms of it doesn't go away. It's a constant part of you, really, and it's just about managing it and not letting it overwhelm you or be a victim to it. Is to realize the truth of what's happening and just manage it as best you can in each moment. Is that that's kind of what I think I'm hearing? Is that right?
Yes, and for the first who knows how many years, it's a ball and chain, and you can be imprisoned by it, you can deny it, you can run away from it, but it's still there. But you can be a victim for a while, but then you want to be a survivor. And then when I move my patients from the survivor mode, then they become victorious. And they know about it, they know how to get help, they know how to not turn to addictions that make things worse or bury the issue. And so I go from a victim to a survivor and then to being victorious. And sometimes we're just dealt with some cards that we have to deal with. And everybody has their own cross to bear, their own trials in life. And we can step up to the plate and show our faith and work hard and dig in, or we can succumb and be addicted to things that just make life worse.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's just it's like any trauma, and it is up to you in terms of how you relate to that, and whether you sort of work through it and take the learning from it and embrace it and integrate it, use it as a force for good in your own life and to empower yourself, as opposed to always going to be a thorn in your side or an issue that you're constantly struggling with. That ultimately is the choice you've been given it. Then now make the best of it, type thing, I guess. And I like that sort of journey from victim to survivor to victorious. That's a nice sort of nice image of the process. And again, it's 1 in 8, so it's quite high statistically speaking. And I guess that's probably or possibly somewhat of a conservative estimate. Would you think so?
That's been debatable, and when I have spent time at the medical schools lecturing to the students and to obstetricians, they question that, because where did that statistic come from? And it's still debatable. And when we look around and see the after effects of a surviving twin, then I can know that those averages, those statistics, those percentages are close. Because now I found another article that there's more twins now than 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And not because of the in vitro fertilization, it's because of better diet. People are having children later in life. The mortality rate is higher. Because 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, twins were dying left and right. 80% of twin pregnancies, both twins die. And so we're having more twins now. And also the documentation is better now than before. So I use the phrase 1 in 8 pregnancies start out as twins and one of the twins dies. And that's what I'm still working with that and using that. But it's very common because we're seeing more tumors, more chimeras. And with a chimera is two eggs that join as one. And so a person can have two different DNAs and still in one body. And there's two known cases that are very publicized back in 2005 and 2006, two ladies are chimeras. And they said, there's only 30 or 40 known cases. Well, if we did the DNA testing on everybody as they did on these two ladies, which took years and years and years, then we'd know that there are a lot more chimeras out there. But the testing hasn't been done. Also, I remember in medical school, some people have two blood types.
Wow, okay.
Some people have two blood types. Well, where did that come from? Some people have this, or a teratoma, or a dermoid cyst, or all sorts of things. And this coming Saturday, I will share with the audience some research that I've done here in Oklahoma City at the University of Oklahoma Medical School concerning stem cell research and chimerism. And this will be the first time I've shared this with anyone and anywhere in the world. So it's a real opportunity for everyone to come and hear this new research that's taking place that's causing ramifications throughout the world. And so I really want to invite everyone to come to this conference.
Excellent.
It's a great conference. Great conference.
Sounds exciting. And so if we for listeners who may be wondering, are they, say, a womb twin, and they have no tangible evidence in the sense that they were born a singleton, so, and their mother, this would be my own situation. Their mother has no memory of ever having a miscarriage or having even sort of bled during a pregnancy. That would give rise to suspicion of a twin being lost at some point. So there's no tangible evidence. So and yet, there may be something in the back of their minds that's causing them to wonder on the back of a conversation that's going on here. What should people be looking out for in their own lives that may indicate that there's something in it for them and worth exploring in greater depth?
That's an excellent question. When I meet someone in my practice or as I travel throughout the world, I start watching their bodily movements. I listen specifically to their word usage. A lot of people who are surviving twins and don't know it, they'll speak in plural. We're going to the grocery store right now. Well, there's just one of you. And they go to the grocery store and they buy two of everything. You go to their house and they have two of everything. Or they're looking for that soulmate. They go from relationship to relationship to relationship and just not satisfied. Or they don't feel like they're fitting in. Or they just feel different, but yet they aren't. I call it alone in a crowd. And they can't make a decision. Or when you talk about death or funerals, they just become incapacitated. They start crying and they haven't gone to the funeral in their whole life. Or they're overachievers trying to compensate for something that they don't understand why they're trying to overcompensate. And perfectionists. Sexual confusion. They're acting out sexually for their deceased twin. Or carrying on a passion that's not theirs. Or I had one patient, she had hip problems her whole life. And I treated her, and after about 3 or 4 years of working with her, boom, there her twin brother popped out. And the twin brother was attached to her hip. And she felt like her twin brother was still on her hip and never left her hip. And she said, I can't live. My twin's not here. How dare I live? Patients with death wishes. Just doing insane things that are just so dangerous, but they don't live. They don't care. My twin's dead. I shouldn't live. Or they just have a fascination, a fixation on twins, but they don't know why. People pleaser. Or also when they have a lot of birth defects. I start seeing that, and I start making little notes in their chart. What about this? What about that? And left-handedness. Left-handedness is still debatable, but when I see someone left-handed, I say, oh, you're left-handed. Great. Do you have a twin that's right-handed? And then I don't say anything. I watch their eyes. I listen to my heart. I remain really still and just watch. And I just I met another chiropractor, another doctor last year, left-handed. I listened to him lecture all weekend, and I went up and asked him, "Do you have a twin?" And he just stared at me, and like I heard him, or like I just perked his curiosity, and he just froze. And I said, "Well, here's my card. If you need to visit, let me know." And I turned around and left the hotel. And so those are some of the signs that I look at, the indicators: physical issues, emotional issues, sexual issues, financial issues. So those are some of the indicators. And at the seminar I'll talk about it. Womb twin has lots of different questions and steps that Alika Hayden came up with that they're just phenomenal. To just try to think about it.
Yeah, actually, that website wombtwin.com is great. It has excellent resources, and the questionnaire, the assessment, the self-assessment that Althea has created is very insightful, very. I suppose it brings together a lot of the points that you talk about there, doesn't it? Because it brings them together as a map. And if you're taking most or the majority of these particular items, it's a strong indication then that you have that there's more to this than just that that you just had a bad childhood or something. Because I remember when I came across this first, and I was looking at I was reading some of the stuff from the Womb Twin website, and I downloaded Althea Hayden's self-assessment, the diagnosis form, and I remember showing it to a friend, and I said, "Yeah, okay," and he's looking at each of the items listed individually. He says, "Well, and he was saying that could be anyone, not being able to make a decision, or having sort of sexual orientation issues, or buying tools of stuff. People could do that. So he was looking at it more from a sort of a logical perspective, and sort of taking them individually as individualizers, and saying, well, that could be true for anyone. You don't have to be a womb twin or have lost a twin to be suffering in this way, or to have this feature in your life. But I guess it's when you pool together the majority of those items, and when they are true for you on a sort of a global scale, then it becomes something that's harder to ignore. But equally, some of the things you've mentioned, I guess they would be true of people who are not womb twin as well. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's a good point. And also, in my 32 years as a physician, the body knows when it's time to heal certain issues in our lives. I call it the hierarchy. An analogy that I use is the artichoke or the onion. With the artichoke, you peel one leaf at a time, and then you get to the heart of the artichoke, which is the best part to eat. And with sexual abuse, physical abuse, the body knows when it's okay, when it's safe to deal with it and heal from it. The example is the actress here in the United States, Roseanne Barr. She had a lot of problems in her life, but when her body, her mind, her soul was ready to heal, then the memories of abuse, the flashbacks started coming to her consciousness. As I said with the patient with the hip problems, I treated her consistently for 3 or 4 years. Then it was time to deal with the loss of her twin brother. When the body is ready to heal, to face the issue, then it will come to the surface. Patience is very important and virtuous, and so I'll perk their curiosity, but if the body isn't ready, the soul isn't ready, the student isn't ready, the teacher won't appear. And so I like you said with that friend, is looking at, well, we all have those issues. You're right. It's accumulation, the combination, physically, what's going on with maybe autoimmune diseases, the addictions. It may not be a twin, but there's help with any addiction, be it based on the loss of a twin or not, and that can help take place also.
Yeah. I think what you're saying about the body is very true. It's kind of like if we get out of our own way, if we're because what I do talk a lot about is not being so head focused, not living in our heads so much that we have a body which is meant to be lived in, and if we trust the intelligence, the innate intelligence of the body, we would we'd be far less stressed, and we would find ourselves not being so difficult and so tough and so hard on ourselves, because the body is, as you say, is incredibly intelligent, and if we learned the language of the body and really learn to sort of listen to it and trust it knows where to go, and it knows where to take us, and it knows what it needs in any given moment. It's quite a powerful resource in that sense. So it's really so really what you're saying in that is to trust that the body's sort of feedback on that. So when you hear something, or you're listening to something, or you read something, and you get a gut feeling, or you get a sensation or a sense about it, that's telling you something, and it's to sort of follow that.
Yes, that's very true. And just get out of the way of yourself and let your heart take over. That's why dreams are very important, that I work with quite often. And I have my patients do a lot of journaling, a lot of meditation. I have homework for them. When I work with them, I give them mantras or things to say to themselves. There's a new book that one of my colleagues just published, and I use some of the things that she has suggested in there. Last Wednesday, I had a session, a neuro-emotional technique session with a patient, and she has been trying for years and years and years to lose weight, and we started working on more twin issues. She lost her twin brother in the 6th month in utero, and we had a major breakthrough last week. I've been caring for this patient for 3 or 4 years, and she said, if my weight vanishes, that means that I may vanish too, like my twin died. So she lost the weight, and the weight vanished, then she would die too, and that's why she's been holding on to this chubbiness her whole life. It was a major breakthrough. She's exercising, she's eating well, but this excess baggage around her waist had a lot to do with her twin, and so it was a major breakthrough. I'm going to be sharing some of the information from this new book that's just published this year, and also on my website, which I have had for quite a few years, vanishingtwin.com, I have more research that's put out there, poetry, stories. Also, in the back, I have tips for practitioners throughout the world, more suggestions, and just thought processes also on my Vanishing Twin website.
So you said there earlier in the conversation that you travel the world and so are you being brought around, invited to various places to talk specifically about this phenomenon?
Yes, and years ago I did some research on hormonal transference, and I spoke in Denver, Colorado about quite a few years ago, about 15 years ago. And the premise is the hormonal transference that takes place in the womb. Some people are very masculine, some are very feminine. And I thought, well, what if there's a hormonal transference that takes place? And so I did quite a bit of research years and years ago about the hormones that are bathed from one twin to the other twin, and I shared that at a research where there were a couple hundred doctors there. And so I spoke at that conference and doing more research concerning it. I spoke at the Womb Twin Conference in London. That's where I met this group in 2009. And that's where Olga Waters and myself started talking about this conference. And last year we started thinking about it and dreaming about it. And this Saturday is a big day, and I'm really excited. And so I've been to London and Paris. I spoke in Paris a couple of years ago to the French and about the womb twin survivor. And Montreal, I'll be lecturing in Toronto this coming fall. And just about the womb twin, new research, what's taking place, how to get help, I'll be discussing that at the conference. Support groups. There's the Twinless Twin group here in the United States. There's Lone Twin Network in London. And they're having their annual meeting this Saturday, or I would be in London this Saturday with the Lone Twin Network. The Twinless Twin group here in the United States is phenomenal. Great support, loving, caring. They have their annual conference once a year. And it's from passing of your twin in the womb or last week. And hundreds of people show up, they share their story, a lot of support, a lot of love. It's just phenomenal. And that's the Twinless Twin group. So I've traveled around. We'll continue to travel around and share this information. In my presentation, I use videos from different films. I'll have a little workshopping going on, share other Twinless twins, Elvis Presley and Bob Dylan and Edgar Allan Poe. You think about these people who, are surviving their twins, and John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Da Vinci. So some of these people, are surviving twins, and then you look at their life and what they've done. And then also the media. All My Children, as I said last week, CSI had something, and there's some Twinless twins and twin movies that have been out that I've collected here in my home, where I wrote most of my book. It's a library of Twinless twin research, books, movies, articles, magazines that I collected, and people throughout the world send me letters, send me books, and people contact me. They go to the doctor, they have the ultrasound done. Oh, I'm having twins. They're so related. 2 months later, they go back and they have another ultrasound, and one of the twins gone. They start crying, they run home, they get on the internet, they start Googling it, and they find me. And they send me a letter or email or text me or call me at the clinic, just wondering what happened. And I console them and help them out, and I've been doing that for 15, 20 years now.
So it's I'm listening to all of that, and I'm sort of referencing it back to my own experience and my own current situation, and I'm someone who likes closure, but of course life isn't that simple a lot of the time, and I keep sort of going back to an attitude or a hope in me that I have this now sorted. This womb twin stuff is history, and I don't need to deal with it or heal it anymore. It's a fact in my past, but I've acknowledged it, I've accepted it, I understand it, and I've gone through a ritual or two in relation to honouring the lost twin and naming him and her. There was actually, I think, 2 others, but I'm wondering, because I mean, I can still see patterns in my life which you could put down to just the human condition, like hoarding, money issues, and I'm wondering how much am I fooling myself? And of course, I'm not expecting you to know the answer to this, Brent. I'm sort of just thinking out loud. But I guess there may be a bit of wishful thinking going on my part in thinking that the whole womb twin phenomenon has all of a sudden just stopped being part of my experience and stopped having an impact on my experience simply because I know it's there and I've in inverted commas dealt with it. So maybe I need a reality check around that.
That's a great question, and it's just, some people say with any trauma, with the Oklahoma City bombing that we had here, which I was involved with for years, with the trauma and the healing, and then the trade centers being bombed there, and they called me to that New York City. So I was in New York City for a while from my experience here in Oklahoma City. And you hear, people say, well, just get over it, move on, drop it. Well, this Saturday I'm going to share what I've done and what I continue to do. And I wrote an article, and I will read it to the group this Saturday about my experience of saying goodbye to my twin. Now, you can say goodbye to someone that you love that's passed away, be it a best friend, an animal, and you still remember them, and you still love them, and there's still the separation. Grief is missing someone or something that you truly loved, that you truly cared for, and in the womb there's love. I have video of twins holding hands, sucking each other's thumbs, pushing each other, comforting each other. That's in the womb with these 3D filming and functional MRIs. You see the bond that's taking place long before birth. I shared the story of my coming to Ireland this weekend with a patient yesterday, and she said, "Oh, we don't feel until we're 3 years old." I said, that's a misnomer. That's what they used to think, but not anymore. There's feelings in the womb. There's video of a needle going into the uterus of the womb for amniocentesis, and the baby is getting away from the needle and dodging the needle and staying away from the needle. That child, that infant, that fetus knew that needle was foreign and not good for the situation. And so I'll share with the group some closure techniques, but it's not over. It's always there. You know, you miss your parents after they pass away. Their influence. You hear your mother's voice in your head off and on because she raised you, she loved you, she cared for you, and it's just not. There's not get over it. You don't. You close the door because it's part of who you are, especially with your genes and your DNA. That's the other half of you. So it's really, really, really important. So I'll share some of that and techniques and ideas and suggestions Saturday.
Fantastic. Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah, I think that thing about getting over it, I can hear that attitude in my own head at times, and it's a very sort of a it's sort of a cold approach. You know, it's sort of people might couch it in what they call tough love, but actually it's anything but that. It's really just a sort of a shutdown mechanism.
Sure, and there's also great help. As I said, I'm going to share with the audience the neuroemotional technique, which helps get you congruent with what took place. Okayness. It gets the charge off of what's going on inside your head. And with neuroemotional technique, there will be a practitioner from London coming, and I have some other references and referrals to practitioners in Ireland and also in Europe. And with NET, it just takes the charge off of you. The fingernails on the chalkboard do not bother you. It opens door, and also it makes sense to your behavior. You receive knowledge. Oh, that's why I've done that. Oh, because of my twin sister, I need to be careful with women taking advantage of me, or I won't let them go, or I won't say, you need to be out of my life now, because, my twin sister left my life. I didn't want her to, so I want people in my life that hurt me, that don't serve me, that aren't good for me. Also, Facebook has great support. There's the Facebook page for womb twin survivors and also the parents. I do a lot with that because the parents lost a child also, and every time they see the surviving twin, they think about the other twin that passed away. And so there's great help on Facebook. And as I said, the Twinless Twin Group, the Lone Twin Network in England. So there is help out there, support groups and groups that are meeting wherever they need help. With the twins, you, me, we checked in together. But our twin checked out without us, and why? And it's not fair. And we're going to talk about that. And just I want to check out too, or why should I live? And there is help out there. There's modalities for healing, and as I work with a lot of patients, keep exercising, keep good journal, as I said earlier. What does your twin want, and what would your twin want you to do? And then also, there's also the anger, the pain of hating the dead twin. Oh, I've worked with patients that, they wanted to kill everybody, and because they couldn't kill their twin. Their twin's already dead. And just very angry and very hateful and just mean people because their twin died, and they're just very, very, very upset. And it's just very, 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 very horrible. So the conference this Saturday at All Hallows College, I will have, it's be open discussion and understand there at the podium and lecture and not answer questions. And it's just going to be a discussion, a group setting, very warm, very healing because of Ogun, the committee, that just is warm, loving people that want to share and help others heal and heal themselves also. I remember one time sitting at the clinic, I wrote Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays because I wanted to get this done. I had lots of opposition and lots of struggles and closed doors, and I kept working and looking for open doors. And as I wrote, I continued to heal. As I found research, I helped others heal. And as others heal, I heal. When you share the light of a candle, your own candle loses nothing. And light in the room becomes brighter and brighter. And so as I share with others, this world is a better place. There's more peace in this world. And if I could go into the prisons and the foster homes and work with these people and help them understand why they are doing what they're doing, it just makes this world a better place.
Absolutely. One final question, Brent. In terms of the timing of losing a twin, is there a inside the womb? Is there a period before which it doesn't have an impact because of the stage of development of the twins in the womb? So, if you lost a twin at 6 weeks or 5 weeks or 4 weeks, would that have less of an impact or no impact as opposed to twin 20 weeks or 25 weeks?
A good question. In my experience, there is no differentiation losing a twin at birth or in the womb because the bonding is there. Now, when I work with someone who lost their twin a couple of weeks ago, they've had years and years and years of more bonding, and so that would be more traumatic, but the trauma is there. And everyone deals with trauma differently.
Yeah.
The grieving is different, and that's why it's not cookie cutter. It's different, and that's why each program that I set up for my patients is detailed just specifically for them. But the trauma is there because the genetics is there. There's a quote that I'll share on Saturday about the environment and also in the womb, and there are all the twins raised separate that never knew of each other, how identical they are emotionally, physically, everything. And so it's not environment, it's in their genes. It's in their genes, the DNA. So I'll share that research with the group on Saturday.
So would you say then that someone who lost a twin at say six weeks in the womb, that the trauma there would be just as intense as the trauma of losing a twin at birth?
Yes. Wow. Because the bonding is there, and who knows what took place before we were even conceived. I've worked with several patients. They knew they were twins in heaven. They knew they were going to be twins here on earth, or they felt that they were coming back as a twin, or their twin was someone else. And also, I'll talk about on Saturday how surviving twins, you may force someone into our twinship relationship. And that's not healthy. That's not fair. That's not fair to the other person. And it's tough. And it's trying to make sense of what took place that we don't understand and we don't have the answers to at this time. So I'll discuss that also.
Just one thing, I remember saying this to someone a few years ago, and I don't know the answer to this, or I don't know if this is accurate. And I don't have I've never bothered looking for research on it, or at least not comprehensively. That you know how in a dog's life, on a year-by-year basis, a year of a dog's life is akin to 7 years of human life. Is that right? Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
So it made me wonder that a huge amount of growth, a huge amount of development happens in a very short time inside the womb. And it seems like a short time to us. It's 9 months. But I'm wondering, is it a bit like that in terms of 9 months in the womb is equivalent to, for example, 9 years outside the womb, or you know what I'm saying? It's like, and that could partly explain why the bond inside in the womb is so intense, because in actual fact time time is experienced very differently, but I'm just sort of hypothesizing really, because I don't really know. But I just found that thought occurred to me at one point, and I thought it very interesting, and it could
It's true. It's true, because it's the first friend. It's the first relationship. And, your first girlfriend, your first best friend, they stay with you the rest of your life because it was the first. It was the purest. It was the funnest. And have that relationship ripped and destroyed and squashed caused all sorts of problems. And so you're right. That's a great point. And it's, why should I get another relationship? Because they're all ruined because of what happened before I was born. So I work with that with patients.
Well, I for one, am absolutely looking forward to meeting you and hearing everything you're going to be sharing on Saturday. And just for listeners, it's this coming Saturday in All Hallows College in Dublin. The conference starts at 10 a.m. and goes through for the day, and it's going to be certainly one hell of a fascinating and also an enjoyable day. It's about sharing information and experiences and some experiencing hopefully some of the many modalities of healing available for this particular phenomenon, and being amongst people who get it, and who want to know more and want to understand this real phenomenon that actually is very, very common, and still too many people are just unaware of it, or ignorant of it, or are rushed to judgment too quickly on it as being too airy-fairy, or just not grounded in real science, when in actual fact it's the very opposite. So Brent, it's been a real pleasure and an absolute honor having you on the show, and loved talking to you and found it absolutely fascinating. So thanks for coming today.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you Saturday.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. Okay, take care and all the best, Brent.